शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये दक्षिणामूर्तिसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गणपति बप्पा जय श्री राम। So last time we had covered Ramayana till I think Rama, Lakshmana, Sita are just at the gates of their palace and about to begin their journey. Their 14 years of Vanavas. Vanavas is the stay in the forest. So they are made to wear, when you become a Vanavasi, which means a person who is staying in a forest, they are also made to wear a garment which suits that kind of a life. So people in forest, they are supposed to be not wearing something of a cotton or silk. They wear a cloth made out of the bark of a tree. Okay, so the bark of the tree is shaved off, and then it's a flexible piece. Okay, and then based on that they make a clothing, an apparel out of the bark of the tree. So because many of you all who are joined now are also listening to the morning session on Kanchi Mahapariva. So once what happens is there is a forest officer who comes to meet Kanchi Mahapariva. Kanchi Mahapariva is a Kanchipuram Shankaracharya. Okay, for those who are not attending the morning session. So once a forest officer comes to meet and he prostrates, he does namaskar, and then Mahapariva asks, "Can you help me with something?" So that forest officer says, "Yes, surely, Pariva, you just ask, you have to just tell me what it is. I will surely ensure that it gets done." So he says, "My Ram, Lakshman and Sita, apparently when they went to forest, they had worn a cloth, an apparel of the bark of a tree. Can you make that and make it for me? I want to see how it is and how it feels." Because he wanted to see as to whether Sita, whose soft skin would have got bruised because of that, and he wanted to feel what Rama and Sita had gone through. So he says, "Can you do it for me?" And he gets it done. He wears it, apparently wears it for a full day, just to get a feel of what Rama and Sita and Lakshmana would have undergone or would have experienced for 14 years. I thought I'll just quickly give that, just to show the softness of the heart of a saint. That's how they view God. They view God as humans, and then they want to feel the same pain that their gods have gone through. I thought I'll just cover that. So they are made to wear this dress, this special dress which is being done out of the bark of a tree. And then Rama also helps Sita wear that particular and that apparel. And then they begin. Just then Dasharatha stops and he wants to see Rama for the last time before they leave for their forest journey. He cries and he wants to see him for the last time, and he cries and embraces Rama and he kisses him on the forehead. And he says, "I don't know whether I'll be able to live long for 14 years till we come back. Let me see you to my heart's content and then bid you a bye." So Rama says, "Don't worry, I'll be back in just 14 years. It's a short period of time. We'll all be reunited and we'll all have a happy life thereafter. Don't worry, I'll be back very soon." That is what Rama says. Before these guys they start off, he calls up, Dasharatha calls Sumantra and he says, "Leave them in a chariot at least in the boundary of Ayodhya. Let them not walk. At least till boundary of Ayodhya, ensure that they are left, they are escorted. And from there on they will be on their own." That is what Dasharatha says. So Sumantra prepares a chariot and then they start off. When they start off, the entire Ayodhya Nagari, the entire Ayodhya city has submerged into mourning, and they all come out of their house and they all accompany. They say, "We will not leave you alone. We'll also come with you for 14 years. That's what they start off saying. And then they all start accompanying the chariot as Rama, Sita and Lakshmana are going. Everybody is discussing, look at the way, even with the simple clothes, look at the way, how beautiful they look. They are talking of Dasharatha. How can he live without his sons? They talk of Kaikeyi. What a wicked lady she is, that she is sending her own son and daughter-in-law to the forest for 14 years so that her son gets the kingdom. So there's a standard gossip that keeps going. Kaikeyi is listening to all this from her balcony. These guys they have begun their journey. What happens is, because a lot of people have joined this entire convoy, the journey is very slow. So they are going slowly towards the next step. As they move, they have now reached the banks of Tamasa river. Okay, this is a river which is very close to Ayodhya. It's there even today. Okay, so they go there and it's already nightfall. They have just reached Tamasa river and it's already nightfall. So everybody kind of take rest. They want to sleep now. So everybody is fast asleep. Everybody is tired because they have done a day's journey. Rama, Sita, Lakshmana and Sumantra also sleep for a while. But what they do is they get up a little early. They get up around 3:30 in the morning, and they slowly get up and wake up Sumantra, and they say, let us do this. You just turn the chariot, empty chariot, just turn the chariot towards the Ayodhya city and come back in the same way, so that we can then cross Tamasa Nidhi and go alone, so that these people don't come along with us. Before these guys wake up, let's do that. So what he does is, Sumantra, he goes inside the city and then he comes out on the same track. So the mud path, the chariot makes a mud path which as if they are going inside the city. And then they silently go and they cross Tamasa Nadi, and then the chariot of course pick up speed on their journey outwards. These people they all wake up and they find that Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, nobody is around, and they find this track that is going inside the city. So they think they all have gone back. So they all come back, and then of course Rama, Sita have not come back. So then again there is all gloom and they're all crying. Rama, Sita have left them. They all come back and they begin their own routine. Dasharatha is rarely now conscious. He is completely taken ill. Dasharatha is now no more going to Kaikeyi's room at all. He is now in Kaushalya's room. Sumitra joins them. Okay, and this Valmiki apparently has covered in few shlokas to show the importance of how wise Sumitra was. Sumitra actually tells them that this is probably a part of the fate. Do not mourn so much, because Sumitra is probably one of those very few people in Ramayana who knew the purpose of the avatar, who knew why the avatar is there and the reason for those 14 years, why it has to happen. So she is one of those very few people in Ramayana who knew the purpose, along with Vasishtha and Vishwamitra. So she says, whatever has happened for good. So don't bother at all. It is something that is only good that is going to happen out of this. We will only be able to understand it only when 14 years get done. So don't mourn over it, and that is the words of wisdom that Sumitra explains. But Dasharatha is beyond wisdom. He is already in a very devastated state. One has to understand, okay, and this is something all parents here would understand. When our children go out, even when my son goes out, even for his regular work, my attention is always on him, whether he's okay. And if there's an inordinate delay, if there's a delay that happens, there's always a wrench in the heart. It's a very unique pain that happens in the heart. Is what has happened? Why has he not come? Where would he be? That's a pain that generally all parents have. My parents also used to have, and I used to mock them. And they used to tell me, you will get the same pain when you become a father to a kid. And that is how it is. Okay, so when I tell this to my son mocks me today. I'm sure he will also go through the same wrench when he grows up and has a kid. So this is very typical to all parents. So Dasharatha was not to see his son again at all for at least for 14 years. He was completely devastated. Now what happens is, this big crowd has already now come back. Dasharatha is in a state of sadness, he is mourning. Kaikeyi and Manthara are preparing for their happiness because they think Bharata will come and become a king. That is what they think now. This chariot, Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, have now gained speed and now crossed the boundary of Ayodhya. After crossing the boundary of Ayodhya, Rama says, let's stop for a while. He stops it, he turns northward because they are moving southwards. So next time what I'll try and do is, I'll try and show a picture. Okay, I do not have it handy now. Next time I'll try and present a picture of the route that Rama took right till Sri Lanka, the route that he took, so that they are able to identify with the geography through which Rama, Sita, Lakshmana moved. We'll then be able to identify and relate to the story better. So Ayodhya is in Uttar Pradesh, which is a northern state in the country. and they move downwards. So they start moving southwards. So when you're moving southwards, you're at the north is at your back, right? So they stop, they move northwards, and they do a namaskar. They prostrate for the Ayodhya city. They think about the city and the greatness and the kind of kings who have ruled on that city. They think of all of them, do a namaskar, and then they start their journey towards the bank of Ganga. Because the next stop for them is going to be the banks of Ganga. So now they are moving towards bank of Ganga, and as they are closing in, they stop, and then they start walking towards the bank. When they encounter a huge crowd that is coming towards them, because the news is already spread to the people who are local over there that Rama, Lakshmana and Sita are coming on their way. This group belongs to a group of boatmen. They are all boatsmen, they're people who ferry from one bank to the other bank of Ganga. And that group is led by a person called Guha. Okay, he happens to be a chieftain, more like a small king. He's a chieftain of that boatsman community, which is living there. So they come and welcome Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, and he actually does a namaskar. He's actually an elder person. He's an elderly person. He does namaskar to Rama. Rama picks him up and he says, no, you're not supposed to do namaskar to me. I am supposed to do it for you. You are elder to me. So no, you are the king of this land. We are all a part of your kingdom. So you are a king of this land. It is duty bound on me to do namaskar. Rama says, no, I am no more a king. I am only representative of a king. I am no more a king. The king still continues at Ayodhya. I am just a Vanavasi. Then they come to know the entire story, that how he's been sent for 14 years to live in forest. So Guha says, it's okay, now you have already left Ayodhya. So what you can do is you can live with us. You guide us. We have a small group, community. You can become a king of this community. You stay here with us comfortably. We are very poor people, but we'll keep you as comfortable as possible. We all can live happily for 14 years and then you can go back to Ayodhya. So that is okay. So Rama says, no, that is not possible. That is not possible. Why? Because the promise is that he will live a forest life. He will live like a Vanavasi, which means a person who lives in forest. He will not take hospitality from any person. He has to live on his own. That is a promise that has been given. He said, I cannot become your guest. So I will have to carry on with my journey. But because they are insisting, I will sleep for a night. So it's kind of a sleepover for him. So overnight they sleep. So Guha is very happy. He's arranged good feast for Rama, Lakshmana, and he says, no, I cannot partake any of this. I have to only eat fruits, roots, and very basically cooked vegetables. That is all I can eat. I am not supposed to eat all of this. So they partake that food. And Guha makes a bed out of hay, very comfortable bed out of hay for Rama and Sita. I mean, of course, he's made it for all, but nobody else sleeps. Only Rama and Sita sleep on that. And on a rock near the bank of Ganga, Sumantra, Lakshman and Guha, they are sitting and discussing. They have not slept for the entire night. Lakshmana is weeping. He is saying, the prince of this land and the queen of this land, I can't see them sleeping on this stack of hay. And this is how it is going to be for the next 14 years. I am so sad that this has befallen on this family. He is very sad. Sumantra and Guha are also very sad, but they console Lakshmana. Early morning, Rama, Lakshmana, and Rama and Sita, they wake up, they do their bathing, they do their normal puja. They have not changed their discipline. Just because they are now into forest life, the environs has changed. They don't change their discipline. They do whatever they do after getting up in the morning. And then they take leave of Guha. They take leave of Sumantra. So now they ask Sumantra, the minister, to go back to Ayodhya, saying, this is where you come. This is the last that you can accompany us. From now on, we are going to be alone. So now Sumantra says, he takes leave, and Sumantra takes the chariot backwards. Guha gets into a boat. All these three people also get into a boat, and now they cross the river Ganga. As they cross the river Ganga, in the middle of Ganga, Sita asks them to stop, and they do a namaskar, they do a puja for Ganga Maya, and Sita promises that I will come back and do the rest. So every puja has got two legs. Okay, one is a puja, and then there is a punar puja, which means you have to complete the puja also. Okay, and that generally gets done either the same day in the evening, or you are supposed to do in the next day. But now that is not going to happen. That is going to happen only after 14 years, right? She is not going to come back to that place for the next 14 years. She does the puja and she promises Ganga Maya that she will do the punar puja after 14 years. And then they carry on. Guha leaves them on the other side of the bank. Rama embraces Guha and he says, till today we were four. From now on we are at 5. This is what this is in Kamba Ramayana, this is not in Valmiki Ramayana. So Kamba Ramayana has a very different take. He also begins with the Valmiki Ramayana as a base, but he has a very poetically different take on Ramayana. He says, till today we were 4. Who are 4? They're brothers, right? Till today we were 4 brothers, but from today onwards we are 5 brothers. So he includes Guha as his brother, okay? And that is a blessing that he gives to Guha. Guha also comes back, and now Rama, Lakshmana and Sita are alone, right? The first time, now they are alone, and now for the next 14 years they are going to be like this. So they begin their journey. Guha has told them to go and stay at Chitrakoot. On their way to Chitrakoot, they have a Rishi's hermitage to visit, which is Bharadwaja Rishi. Okay? So they are on their way to meet Bharadwaja Rishi. That is the first step that they take. We'll allow Rama to travel that journey. We'll come back to Sumantra, who's coming back to Ayodhya. So Sumantra now has reached Ayodhya. As soon as he reaches Ayodhya, all the queens, Kaushalya, Sumitra, Dasharatha, they all come and swarm him. They said, how's Rama? What did he say? What are they doing? Where do they sleep? What did they eat? They're all worried about Rama, Lakshmana and Sita. And they said, what did they do? How did you all manage? So Sumantra gives all the information. He tells what happened at Tamasa river, what happened at Ganga, banks of Ganga, how Guha welcomed them with a lot of hospitality. And all of that is what is told. Before leaving Rama, before asking Sumantra to go, Rama says to Sumantra, he says, please tell all my mothers that I will come back and we'll have a happy life later on. He tells this, and he then tells, very specifically, tell Kaikeyi Ma that I am not angry on her and let her also be happy. This is what Rama tells. Lakshmana, of course, is very upset. So he says, Sumantra, no, don't tell this news at all. Tell that we are angry about her. Rama says, no, even she has to live a happy 14 years. Let her not live in misery. So he says, go and give this information to Kaikeyi also. So Sumantra gives that news also to Kaikeyi. So this is exactly what differentiates Rama as compared to everybody else, right? He never had anger on anybody. He never had jealousy. He never had any bad feelings, ill feelings, even for people who did bad to him. Even when he goes to kill Ravana, he actually tells Ravana before starting the battle that you accept that you have done a mistake and give Sita back to me, I will pardon you. That is what Rama says, right? Before even starting the war, that is what Rama says. So for Rama, there is no hatred in his mind at all. Even for the worst mistake doers, there is no hatred at all. That is what differentiates Rama from normal human being. So Sumantra is now given all this information. Dasharatha's health has now started declining. The fact that he's got separated from his favorite son, his health has got declining. He is no more really remaining conscious. For a good part of the day, he is actually unconscious. For a very little part, he really wakes up. He keeps crying, Rama, can I see you? Rama, I want to see you. Will I ever hear his sweet voice? Can I ever see his beautiful face? Will he ever hold me? I mean, he will just lament like this and suddenly again fall unconscious and go swoon into an unconscious state. And that is how his health has started declining. There is a very beautiful abhanga of Sant Eknath on specifically on this. Sant Eknath wrote a Ramayana called Bhavarata Ramayana, which is in Marathi. Okay, his guru told him to write Ramayana in a language that people will understand. So he wrote Ramayana in Marathi. So that's how you have Ramayana in different languages. Each of them took from Valmiki, they took source, inspiration from Valmiki Ramayana, but they wrote their own. And the way they wrote is because Rama chose to give them darshan. So Eknath Maharaj, it seems, used to sit down and used to go into a meditative state and used to actually see Ramayana happening in his presence and used to write. And that is the way he used to write Ramayana. It seems in one of the, I'm just sorry for deviating, but in one of the cases what happens is, while talking about in Sundarkand, it seems that what happens is Hanuman himself comes into Eknath Maharaj as a soul. And Eknath Maharaj apparently grows in his size, still writing, but he's grown in his size. There is a neighbor who comes and watches him and he's all surprised because he's like 20 feet Hanuman sitting in a room and writing Ramayana. The reason why I told this example is because when the saints wrote what they have written, they might sound like different versions. But these are true versions because God chose them to tell that Ramayana in that type, in that version. And that's the reason it is a true version. So this is a beautiful abhanga. Just to explain this, he says, Kasamala takuni gela Ram. I will not either sing or narrate because it's an extremely tear-jerking, and I don't want to now sit and cry. Extremely tear-jerking abhanga, very small abhanga. Kasamala takuni gela Ram is how it starts. It says, how did Rama leave me? Actually, takuni means how did Rama put me down like this and gone? That's the emotion in which Dasharatha sings. This particular abhanga has been sung by Bhimsen Joshi. What I'll try and do is I will probably send it on the group. You all can probably hear it. Very beautiful to explain how Dasharatha, the pain that Dasharatha is going through. So when in one of these instances, when he's a little conscious, he calls for Kaushalya and he says, I know why this grief has befallen on me. I exactly know why I'm facing, or why all of us are facing this. And I'm very sure that I'm not going to survive this, I'm going to die. So Kaushalya says, why do you feel so, and what is it that you are so sure about? So he says, before I got married, before all of you all came in my life, when I was a young prince, I was very proud of my archery skills. So if you remember, I've told you, Dasharatha was one of those few archers who can wield a bow and arrow by just the noise. It's called a Shabda Bhedi. Bhedi means the target, Shabda means noise. A person who is able to wield a bow and arrow just by the noise. So he doesn't even have to see a target. If he can hear a target, if there is a noise that is being made by a deer or an elephant or an enemy, he can send an arrow in that direction and he'll be able to kill that particular being. That was the skill set that he had. The other Shabdavedis are, of course, Rama, Krishna, they are gods. They of course were Shabdavedis. But in normal humans, in Mahabharata, Bhishma, Karna, Drona and Arjuna, these people were Shabdavedis. They could send arrows in the direction of the noise and they can still pierce the target. So what happens is, on a hunting expedition, Dasharatha as a prince is gone in his chariot, is gone to hunt some animals or whatever. So once so hunting you have to wait, right? You have to wait, you have to be very patient for an animal to come near you and then you can kill it. So once near a river, what he's done is he's hidden himself behind the trees in the forest, and then he hears a sound in the river. Okay, the sound for him is similar to a manner in which a tiger or a deer would drink water from a river. And what he does is he aims it, because he's got the ability to pierce with the noise. He aims it and he sends an arrow. And the moment he sends an arrow, in split second, there is a loud noise that comes in, and it's a human voice. Ah, that's the kind of noise that he gets. And then he's petrified. Dasharatha is petrified. He's saying, I thought there's probably a deer there. And I can only hear a voice of a human. So he rushes to that spot and he finds that his arrow has pierced the heart of a young boy. He lifts his head and he says, my God, it's a mistake that I've done. I didn't know it was you. What that boy is trying to do is he's trying to put a vessel into the water, and when that bubble gets released from the water, there's a noise that it makes, right? So keeping that noise in the mind, he thought it's a deer probably trying to drink water, but actually it was a boy. He picks his head, keeps it on his lap, and he says, I'm so sorry I put the arrow through you and you're almost on the verge of death. You have to really pardon me. But the boy happens to be, his name is Shravan. His name is Shravan Kumar. He says, my name is Shravan Kumar. It is okay, it's not about me pardoning you. You have to go and ask for forgiveness to my parents. He's saying, where are your parents? He's saying that my parents are a few yards away. My parents are totally blind. Both of them are blind. And I am now carrying them to different places, places where it's called as Tirtha Kshetra, which means places where there are different temples, pilgrimage. I'm taking them to pilgrimage so that they can have darshan of different gods. And the way that Shravan Kumar takes them is, I don't know how many of you all have seen, during our childhood days, we used to have these vegetable vendors who used to come like that. Okay, nowadays you have this cart through which they get it. But those days the vegetable vendors used to come like this. So there used to be a pole which is kept like this, and the two ends of the pole will have a basket tied to it. Okay, so this end there will be a basket tied, and this end there will be a basket tied. So it will be like a weighing scale. So imagine a weighing scale which is a larger in proportion, right? So you have a pole like this, and then you have two baskets dangling from the ends of the pole. On one side he used to make his mother sit, the other side he will make his father sit, and then carry that, and that is how he has been doing pilgrimage. Okay, because his parents are blind. That is the kind of bhakti that Shravan Kumar did for his parents. He said, I am the only living living son for them, and the fact that I am going to die is going to be a devastating news for them. So you go and ask forgiveness to them. And he leaves and he breathes his last. Now Dasharatha is really petrified. Now with lot of real tension, he goes and meets his parents. His parents are actually blind, but the moment they find a footstep, they realize that this is not his son's. His son is a frail-looking, boy, his young boy. Well, they could sense that by the crunch on the grass, they can easily gain that this person is a fairly large person and a person from power. So they say, who are you? You are not my son. Where is my son? His father asks. So he comes very close. He gives water to them first. He feeds them, makes them drink the water, and then he slowly tells the news that their son is dead. By mistake, he has sent an arrow through, piercing his heart, and he's died. Both mother and the father both are completely grief-stricken. They don't even know what to tell. They said, you have to first, I don't know whether I can really forgive you. You first take me through to the dead body of my son. So he takes them to the dead body of the son. He cremates they said you have to first cremate him. So they put him on a pyre, where cremation can be done, and he lays the body and he lights it. Father gets up and he says, even me and my wife are going to enter this pyre. But Dasharatha, remember, what you have done is a great sin. And you will also suffer the same. You will also die out of separation from your son. That is a curse that they give him, and they jump into the pyre. So they also die. Dasharatha takes that as a curse. But what has happened over a period of time, he is not even married. Right? And typical to bachelors, they don't realize the importance of having children and getting separated. When you are a bachelor, you feel you are the king of the world anyways. And over a period of time, he has also forgotten that. Now he gets reminded out of that. The curse is playing out. What did the father say? You will die out of separation of your son with your son, which means once your son will get separated and you will die out of that separation. That hits him today. Say, Kaushalya, that Brahmin, that pious Brahmin who gave me that curse, today I got reminded of it, and I'm not going to survive this. I'm going to die because that was a curse that was given, and the curse will play. The next day he gets up, and then he's still in a very bad state of mind and bad state of health also. And then he shouts, he says, Kaushalya, I can't see you, it's getting dark everywhere. Is it morning or is it night? Kaushalya comes and holds him. He says, it's very much day, why are you feeling it's dark? So no, it's a darkness that is engulfing me, I can't even see you. And then slowly her voice also becomes feeble. He's saying, Kaushalya, I can't even hear you, can I ever see Rama, can I ever see him, can I ever hear him? And thus saying so, he starts sliding down and he falls unconscious. What happens is, Kaushalya feels he's fallen unconscious. However, his actually breath is slowly started to drop. They make him lay on a sofa and they get on with their work. As they get on with their work, the Dasharatha has not got up at all. For the full day and full night, they have not got up. Those days, what used to happen is, for waking up a king, there used to be a small band of music players. Okay, they'll come, they'll play flute, and so that that's a kind of an alarm. They don't wake up to alarms of mobile that we do today nowadays. So they used to wake up for a very beautiful music. Somebody will play on some flute or veena or something, and then slowly wake up the king. So that the king wakes up in a good mood, then he performs in a good manner. So we all know what happens when our boss is in a bad mood, right? He fights with his wife at home and he comes in the same bad mood. We know how the day goes for the subordinates, right? So that the king is always in a good mood, they generally wake him with good music. So these people, they come and try to wake him up, but Dasharatha is not getting up at all. They come and try to wake him up, he is not getting up, he is already died. It is very sad. It is very sad because Dasharatha was not only a popular king, not only a powerful king, he was also an extremely popular king. He ruled for almost 10,000 years, and he ruled really as per dharma. He was one of those very popular kings. Indra used to like him a lot. Different gods used to take help from him to fight their enemies. He was liked by his subjects, he was liked by his children, he was liked by his wives. So he was a very liked person, he was a very happy person. But look what happened to even him. Because the curse had to play, he died a desolate, grief-stricken man who died alone on bed. Right? Horrible death for such an illustrious life to live. He had a very horrible death. His sons not being around them. So it's considered that when a person dies, if the sons are around, that is considered to be very auspicious and a very good death. Death is imminent, right? I mean, nobody is going to live permanently. Death is surely going to come. It's going to come for all of us. How we die is what makes it different. How we have lived is going to decide how we are going to die. If we have lived a very good life, we should ideally have a very good death, which means it is called as an anayasa maranam, which means an effortless death. You should not even realize that death has come to us. That's the way one has to die. And generally, if it is in the presence of your children, it is considered to be very auspicious. I'm sorry I'm talking about death, but it's an aspect of life anyway, so that's the reason I'm covering that. And look at Dasharath, he had 4 sons, but none of his 4 sons were around him. When he died, none of his wives were also around him. He actually died alone. And in extremely, I would say extremely not good manner at all. When they try to wake up, he's not got up, and then Vasishtha, Sumantra, they all come and gather. And then they say, okay, no, Dasharath has already died. But to do the last rites, you need to have son by your side. Now, Rama and Lakshmana getting them back is not going to be possible at all, right? Rama and Lakshmana have already started their journey. Bharata and Shatrugna are there at Kaikeyi's parents' house, that is grandparents' house, the Bharata's grandparents' house. So to get them also, it's going to get time. So what they decide is, no, somehow we have to get Bharata and Shatrugna back. But how do you get them back? You shouldn't tell them the news that their father has died, Rama has gone to forest, but then Bharata will also be grief-stricken, and they don't know how Bharata will react. Bharata, if in the moment of grief, if he also dies, it will be very difficult then to manage. So they say, somehow and anyhow we have to get them back, and we have to get them back at real speed, because the cremation also has to happen. So what they do is they keep the body submerged in an oil. Okay? So today we find bodies are kept in morgue, in ice box or whatever. Those days they had to preserve the body so that it doesn't get infected. They used to submerge it in oil. So they keep it in an oil and they send a messenger. And the messenger has been given a single information saying, go as fast as possible and get Bharata and Shatrugna as fast as possible. Vasishtha stops them. Vasishtha says, wait. When you go to visit, when there is a person, a messenger coming from one king to the other king, you never go empty-handed. So you have to go with all the gifts that you are supposed to take, because you go empty-handed, Bharata will immediately understand there is something amiss. Right? So you go as if you are going for a normal message, go and fetching them up. So go with all the gifts. So although they are so grief-stricken, Vasishtha is able to think all of this. He says, go with all the gifts. So he carries all the gifts. They get the fastest rider and he dashes to Kaikeya. The night when Dasharatha breathes his last, Bharata gets a dream. Bharata gets a dream, and there he finds Dasharatha, his father, completely smeared in oil. He's naked and is smeared in oil and is rolling down from the mountain into a mud, into a mud pit in the southern direction of a mountain. So this is a specific dream that he had. He gets up and he says, he wakes up Shatrugna and says, there's something untoward that has happened. Something is not right. Something bad has happened in Ayodhya. We need to find out what has happened. Shatrugna says, nothing would have happened. There is Ram, there is Lakshman there. What bad can happen? So no, there is something that is bad happened. He said, no, there is nothing. There is Kaushalya, there is Sumitra, Ma, there are Vasishtha, all of these are there. Nothing will happen. Why are you so worried? It's only a dream. Just forget it. Bharata, it seems, says, everybody is there, but there is also my mother who is there. Bharata recognizes his mother. He actually tells, my mother, that lady who's pride conscious, who's short tempered, who's self-centered, that lady is still there. And till such time she is there, I don't know what has befallen my father. This is what Bharata tells Shatrugna. So Shatrugna says, no, there is nothing untoward happened, don't worry. And within 3 days, this person from the chariot, from the messenger comes in. He comes in and then he meets the grandfather, that is Bharata's grandfather, Kaikeya, gives all the gifts. They all ask, how are everybody? They say everybody is okay, everything is okay. That is the answer that has been told. He can't, look at his problem. He can't speak untruth. Because the moment he speaks something wrong, speaks a false, Bharata is going to be angry that he has spoken untruth. He can't speak an untrue statement, but at the same time he is not supposed to tell the news also. So it's not a difficult job to do. So Bharata is out of he's just 2-3 days back, he's had that nightmare. The moment he sees somebody from unannounced, somebody from Ayodhya, he's all worried. The first question he asks is, how is father? What happened? Why have you come with such hurry? And why are you asking us to come back with you? The messenger says, I don't know anything. All that I've been told is to fetch you and come back as soon as possible. The elders, he's not saying the father, Rama, Lakshmana, mothers, no, he's not saying that. He's saying the elders in the Ayodhya have called for your attendance, and that is the reason I'm here. So Bharata is actually not satisfied, but he knows that he can't get further answer from the messenger. They quickly pack up their things, they do namaskar to their grandfather, and then they leave. This entire journey of to and fro, it takes only 8 days. And at the 8th day, dawn, they enter Ayodhya. As soon as he enters Ayodhya, he finds there is no... Generally, Ayodhya is a vibrant city. There is rangoli everywhere, there are flower garlands, people are going about doing their jobs. Generally there is a vibrancy to the city because everybody is happy under the rule of Dasharatha. When he enters, he finds a lot of gloom. There is no rangoli, there are no lamps lit, there are no garlands, there are no flowers. And what is happening is, as he is going by the street, people, as they see Bharata, they are shutting their doors. Okay? As if they don't want to see Bharata. Bharata is finding all of this very bad, and he is saying, Shatrugna, there is something that is untoward that has happened, there is some bad omen. This is not right at all. And as they enter, they first dash. The moment they enter into Ayodhya palace, they find Kaikeyi waiting for them with a thali of aarti, to welcome. That's how you welcome. And then she gets Bharata and she's very happy. She embraces Bharata, she kisses him on the forehead, and she takes him to the room. And the first thing that the Bharata asks, where is father? Kaikeyi then says, wait, you just relax yourself, freshen up yourself, we will meet everybody. So he says, no, where is father? So she then breaks the news. He says, your father lived a very glorious life, and as per his glorious life, he's already reached heaven. He just slumps on the sofa nearby. He says, what has happened? How is it that this happened? And how come you all allowed for Bharata to know? Because when Bharata left, everything was very nice, right? This is a sudden news for him. So he's not even able to digest that. So Bharata then asks, what was the last that he spoke of? So Kaikeyi was true. Kaikeyi is saying, the last word that he said was, Hey Rama, Hey Lakshmana, Hey Sita, can I ever see you again? That is the last that Dasharatha spoke. Now, Bharata realized suddenly, which means Rama, Lakshmana, Sita are not around. He is saying, what is the urgent work that has taken Rama, Lakshmana and Sita away from Ayodhya? When father was not well and he is taken ill, how come these people are not there in the town? Then Kaikeyi then gives the next bit of the news. She says, no, Rama, Lakshmana and Sita have gone to the forest to live as Vanavasis, and they are not going to come back for the next 14 years. Another shock for Bharata. Bharata says, why have they done that? Who asked them to do that? When father is ill, why would they do that? So I only asked them to do that. And then she tells the entire story. Bharata is extremely angry. He is extremely angry. He is spiteful. He is saying, you betrayed the entire family. You are not the daughter of your father. You are not the wife of your husband. You are not my mother. I disown you as my mother. That is the last sentence that he says. I completely disown you as you are my mother. What you have done to the family is such a great disservice. You've been so cruel. How can you ever imagine that I will take away the throne that Rama rightfully deserves? It is Rama's throne. It never was mine, and I am happy to serve him. How can you even think that I will take away the throne? And he's in tears. The first thing he says, enough of finding this lady, the first thing he does is goes and meets Kaushalya. The moment, now you have to look at what is the amount of scorn, what is the amount of bad treatment that Bharata gets. The moment that Bharata enters Kaushalya's apartment, Kaushalya looks at him, she blesses him, and she says, welcome Bharata, the throne has been kept ready for you by your mother. Be happy. That is what she says. And it is stinging like 1,000 scorpions for Bharata. Bharata comes and falls at her feet and says, Mother, I sincerely didn't know this is what my mother has done. and I do not own any of her actions. I would never want this for Rama at all, and this is not something that I would have ever dreamt. It is not something that I asked for. And he convinces her, I was never a part of this plan, I didn't know any of this at all. Why would I ever send Rama to forest? I would have loved to serve him as a servant, forget as a brother. That is what Bharata says. Kaushalya, of course, knows what Bharata is. She embraces him and she tells, Bharata, you have risen even beyond your ancestors. This land you belong to a very great lineage. Raghuvamsha is a great lineage. Great kings have lived. Great kings like Harishchandra, great kings like Dilipa, Raghu. These are the kind of kings that have lived in the Sagara Chakravarti we've seen, right? Then the person who got Ganga to the earth. Such great kings have lived in your lineage, but by just saying this, you have surpassed all of them. And that is how she blesses him. She goes to meet Sumitra and immediately dashes to the darbar and meets all the kingsmen. He says, anyhow, let us ensure that we get Rama back. Rama and Lakshmana have to come back, and there are no two thoughts on that. Vashishta ensures that he consoles him, and he says, even before we do anything else, the first thing that we have to do is to do rightful cremation to Dasharatha's body. Right? It has been kept under oil for 8 days, and we have to finish off the cremation. He says, can we get Rama and Lakshmana back? Rama is a rightful elder brother who has to do those rituals. But there's no enough time to get Rama back. We'll finish off with the rituals, and then we'll get on to the next activity. So they do all those rituals. They finish off all the 13 days of rituals that a dead person has to be, the respect that a dead person has to be paid. All of that happens, and then they sit in the darbar, and now they are now talking of coronating Bharata, because now Bharata has to become the king. What happens if there is no king? Okay, there will be an anarchy in the kingdom, and Valmiki has spent apparently a few shlokas just to explain what anarchy is. What happens in a headless state, which means the state doesn't have a head. What happens in such a state? How sins start growing, and he's actually given examples for all of that. So we should not enter into a state of anarchy. We should ensure that you become the king. Bharata refuses. He said, I will never ever become the king so far as Rama is there. Rama is alive and is very much there. He has to only become the king. I will never ever become the king. So they say, but that is not possible because he's not going to be here for 14 years. So he said, nothing doing, I'm going to get back Rama. If you all are going to accompany me, great. Otherwise, I'm going to go alone and meet him. So then everybody agrees to it, and then they say, okay, we all will go and meet Rama. We don't know whether he's going to come back, but we'll at least go and meet Rama. So Bharata says, leave that to me. I will ensure that Rama comes back. And then the entire gang, everybody now starts joining. As soon as the town comes to know that they all are going to go and meet Rama, everybody is happy. And everybody feels now Bharata is going to be able to convince Rama to come back. So they all are very cheering, and they all say, we'll all join. The entire army, all the people from the town, they all start off, they make preparations, and then they start off their journey towards Bharadwaj Ashram. That is where Rama is reached. As they begin their journey, now we'll join Rama. Rama has reached, Rama, Lakshmana and Sita have reached Bharadwaj Ashram. The way they walk, okay, these are all small things that come out from the Kavya or the poem of Ramayana. So the way they walk is, in the initial phase of their Vanavas, the stay in the forest, Lakshmana is made to walk in the front, Sita in the middle, and Rama in the back. Okay? So that Sita is protected from both sides, from the front and from the back. But Rama makes Lakshmana be ahead. While in the second part of the Vanavas, Rama remains in the front and Lakshmana remains in the back. Now why this happens? It is because, it seems Rama says, in the initial phase of the journey in the Vanavas, they are going to be meeting a lot of rishis, a lot of saints, a lot of sages. So that Lakshmana gets the first anugraha, gets the first blessing of that rishi, he makes Lakshmana stand in the front. In the second phase, they are going to meet a lot of demons, a lot of bad people, a lot of evil people. So that Lakshmana doesn't have to face that and he faces it on him, he starts the journey by being in the front. Okay, that is how they walk. So today I have sent a picture on the group of them walking in the forest. You will find Rama, Sita and Lakshmana. That is in the second part. In the first part actually it is Lakshmana, Sita and Rama. That is how they walk. They reach Bharadwaj Ashram, they do their namaskar, they pay their respect to the great sage. And once that is done, they sleep overnight there. And they ask for the address of Chitrakoot, because that is where they are going to spend a good part of their time of their Vanavas. Okay? So they ask for the address of Chitrakoot. Chitrakoot simply means the most beautiful place. Okay? So in the forest, of course, it's beautiful, lot of scenic, there's a scenic beauty to it. So they take that address and they begin their journey to Chitrakoot. As they begin their journey to Chitrakoot, these people have also begun their journey from Ayodhya, right? They've begun their journey and then they've started. Now the first will be Tamasa Nadi. From Tamasa, then they'll come to Guha, right? That is where the chieftain of the boatsman community is staying. They reach that place. Once they reach that place, they meet Guha. Now Guha also says this. Guha says, when I saw the army coming from a distance, Bharata, I thought you are going to come and wage a war on Rama. Okay? When Bharata cries, he says, no, I'm not, I'm going to meet him. I want to get him back. So he said, very good, I will also join you. That is what Guha says. And they stay there for a night. When they stay, what Guha has done is, if you remember when Rama and Sita had stayed at their place, they had slept on a stack of hay. Guha has not touched that at all. He has kept it just like that. Okay? Now what is this feeling? Why is he kept it like that? So all of us, you might have heard stories like getting autograph from an actor. I know a lot of people used to get autograph in their hands, and when they get it on their hands, then they will not take bath for 10 days, so that it's not wiped out. Okay. Or so I remember somebody shaking hands with Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson visited India 20 years back. He had done a visit to India. And he shook hands with that guy. And he didn't take bath for 20 days. Because why? Because Michael Jackson had shook hands with him. When people can be so crazy, what Guha did was far more better. What he did is basically Rama and Sita had slept on that bed and he didn't want to disturb them. So Bharata comes and asks, what did Rama and Sita do? What did they eat? But then he showed the bed where Rama and Sita had slept, and Bharata is in tears. They're saying the king of this land has had to sleep like this. And he goes closer to the haystack where Sita had slept. Okay? And this is there in Kamba Ramayana. He goes closer to it and he finds that the hay has become a little more golden than naturally it is. Because it seems Sita's body has a natural golden hue. Okay? And that natural golden hue apparently had got rubbed off on that hay. So he's got a feeling that that hay has become a little more golden than a natural hay. Of course, these are poetic expressions, but they are beautiful, right? The reason I'm uttering them for you all is to just enjoy the poetic beauty behind, or the feeling, the emotions behind these things. So he collects those hays and the hay and he keeps it with him. He says, these are the memory for my brother and my sister-in-law, my bhabi. I don't know, sister-in-law doesn't sound really good. The word bhabi, the respect that the word bhabi gets to you is completely different. The word sister-in-law somehow doesn't get that respect. I don't know. It could be growing up. We've been grown up with words like bhabi. Bhabi is equivalent to ma. That is how you do. Bhabi ma. That is how you refer to. So then they start their journey. We will now take a break here. The reason why I would want to take a break here is because, we'll probably end the session here. The reason why I want to end the session is here because the next journey is where Bharata comes and meets Rama, and this is a very important segment in Ramayana which is called as a Bharat Ram Milap. Okay, where I would like to spend a few moments on that, because it's a very beautiful parva. Parva means segment in the entire story, and Bharat Milap also would require us to do Nevedya. All those who want to and wish to do, you all can do. We'll be anyway doing a Nevedya on behalf of everybody. So this is a very auspicious, a very beautiful segment, a beautiful part of the story where the two brothers meet and then of course they also separate, but then they are far more happier after they separate. So I will cover that part of the story in the next week because I will need some time to do that. With this, that Bharata has now begun his journey to meet Rama, we will end the story for the day. Is there anything that you would want to ask me? Anything that you have not understood? Free to ask the question. I thought I will gain a little speed on Ramayana because we're probably lagging a little bit because I've been a little slow in my journey to cover Ramayana. I need to cover because there are a lot of good things that are yet to come. And we're still just in the second Kanda, which is now about to end. The Ayodhya Kanda will end after Bharat Mila. And then the Aranya Kanda will start, which is a very short one. And then, of course, the beautiful ones, the Kishkinda, the Sundar Kanda, the Yuddha Kanda will start off. But I wanted to gain some speed and so that we can cover a larger ground. So in case you all felt I was a little fast, I was not clear, is there some part of the story that you would want me to repeat? Let me know. Nothing? Great. So we'll start our Hanuman Chalisa. Yeah? Punamji, what something? Okay. Shri Guru Charana Saroj Raja Nijamana Mukura Sudhari Varanau Raghuvar Bimala Jasu Jodaya Kupalachari Buddhihina Tanu Janike Sumirau Pavana Kumara Bala Buddhi Vidya Dehu Mohe Haravu Klesha Vikar जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपी सति लोक उजागर रामदूत तुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन वरण विराज सुरेसा कुंडल कुंचित केसा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन
विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम
काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा
भीम रूप
धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज समारे लाए सजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए
रघुपति
कीन्ही बहुत बढ़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई सहस बदन तुम रोयस गावे
अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगाव
सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद सहित अहिसा जम कुबेर दिक्पाल जहाते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते
तुम
उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीना राम मिलाए राजपद दीना तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय
सब जग जान
जुग सहस्र योजन पर भानु लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि जलधि लांग गए अचरज नाही
दुर्गम काज
जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी सरना तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना पद तेज समारो वापै तीनों लोक हांकते कापै भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे
नासे रोग
हरे सब पीड़ा जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा
तिनके काज सकल तुम साज
और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सो ही अमित जीवन फल पावे चारों जुग पर ताप तुम्हारा
है परिसिद्ध जगत उजियार
साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता
असुर दीन
जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई और देवता चित्तन धरहि हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करई
संकट कटे
मिटै सब पीड़ा जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलबीरा जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई ये शत बार पाठ करे कोई छूट ही बंदी महा सुख होय जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा होय सिद्धि साकी गौरीसा
तुलसीदास
दास सदा हरि चेरा की जय नाथ हृदय महडेरा पवन तनय संकट हरण मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसहु सुर भूप सियावर रामचंद्र की
जय
बोलो हनुमान की
जय